You're listening to the Social Selling Simplified podcast. Stick around if you too are obsessed with learning things that actually work and believe that success leaves clues. We're all about identifying results-producing roadmaps and getting super clear on how to scale and grow your online business. From part-timer to president, social selling expert Ashley Shaw will help you connect the dots and take the guesswork out of what works to grow a social selling empire. It's time to hear from social selling legends, listen in on truthful conversations, and learn the best tips and tricks to reduce the marketing overwhelm so you can build the social selling business of your dreams. If you're ready to go all in, no holding back, and build the business you've always wanted, you're in the right place. Here's your host, educator, social selling guru, and fitness industry OG, Ashley Shaw.
Welcome to Social Selling Simplified. I'm your host, Ashley Shaw, and today we are going to be diving into a question that coaches ask all the time. And in fact, if you're in any type of sales, I guarantee this question has come up, you've thought about it, or you have tried to overcome it in your own business. And this episode is all about how to overcome the price objection and actually get people past the price. So when it comes to being in any industry that's out there, there's often a separation between the low cost version and then there's a middle ground and the higher cost version. So when I was in the fitness industry working in physical fitness club locations, we always described it as those three areas or markets, right? You have your luxury brands like Equinox and those sort of companies that can easily get away with charging $100 plus a month. Then you have everyone sort of in the middle that's around that, let's call it like $30 bi-weekly, somewhere in there. And then you have low cost models, which are like $10 every 2 weeks. So there's always three different levels of products, and ultimately that sort of boils down to sometimes how people's perception, we can come into contact with people that have those different perceptions of what things should cost. So I want to draw your attention there for a second, because I do think that it's really important that we understand that it's up to us to be able to explain to people what the differences are between those different levels. And for that example, I want to talk about a diamond ring here for a second. So let's say you have a beautiful diamond ring and you see a price tag of $20,000. Now, no one has told you about anything about this ring. You don't know how many carats it is. You don't know the clarity. You don't know the cut. You don't know the color. And you don't happen to know that it belonged to Queen Elizabeth. So your thoughts on that diamond, if you were to guess how much it will be worth, you'd probably lowball it, right? If you didn't have all that information, you'd probably say, well, you think about it, you'd look down at your hand, you'd think my ring, well, I know we paid this for it. Looks pretty similar. I'm going to ballpark it around the same. Now, if somebody were to then sit down with you and say, okay, so this diamond ring, this is the color. It's colorless, and, all those things about rings that people talk about. This is the clarity. This is the cut. It's a 1.25 carat, et cetera, and it belonged to Queen Elizabeth. Your perception of that diamond, looking at the exact same diamond, would be very, very different, right? Because your basis for what you're looking at, the value of it, would be coming from a place of having more information. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that when you get price objections, it's really important to not just look at it as this person is challenging what the product is, and I have to be able to overcome and beat down their argument, because that in itself is not helpful for you, right? If you feel like I just have to use my words to try to get them to see my point of view. That's not what it's about. This is about persuasion. And persuasion is much different. Persuasion is not combative. It's not about throwing a bunch of facts really in front of people, but it's more of explaining why something actually is saving you money and why there's value in the offering of that product. So if we go back to the diamond ring example, and I were to say, this diamond ring is actually worth $20,000. But what's crazy about it is if you were to turn around and go and sell it because it belonged to Queen Elizabeth, it's actually worth $50,000. Immediately, your perception of the ring changes and your perception of what it's worth instantly changes. So we need to be able to provide that context when we are walking people through the price of a product and the value. So hopefully that story about the diamond really resonates, because it's really important that whenever we are introducing a product, we don't just throw it in front of people and expect them to have all those details and the description behind why that product is a superior product. If people are to look at your product and decide which category it falls into, they're just going to default to the cheapest thing that they saw, on Amazon or in an ad. They're not going to know that it may hold more value than those things that they have seen in the past. So that is a really important distinction to make before I go into the 5 most important things you need to know when it comes to overcoming price objections. Okay? So the first step in this process, and there's 5 steps, as I said here, you need to do all 5. And what's going to happen is that if you start to do more of this, meaning you start thinking about the steps and you start becoming more aware of them, you're going to get less price objections than before. And eventually you'll get really good at interpreting beforehand, before the objection comes up. You will know what to say in order to help persuade people and get them to see the real value in your product. So if you're getting a lot of objections right now, I almost want to tell you, it's not your fault. Don't worry about it. But you might not have the skills to be setting it up properly. So it's a completely normal problem that people in the sales industry make. It's not something that you have to be worried about. Oh, well, if my mother doesn't see the value in this, then no one does. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves here, right? The people around you might not be your ideal customers, and you probably haven't done a great job of unpacking these steps because you just don't know them. And that is completely normal. That's totally fine. The stuff I'm going to teach you comes from 16 years of sales experience. So it doesn't just, it's not in every sales manual out there on how to do this. So there's going to be 5 steps. And these steps, if done properly, will actually get you to the point that you will not need to overcome price. But if you do, then I'm going to teach you how to actually be able to do that in a way that is not slimy. It's not, close the virtual sales door and lock it behind you and then have people ghost you and think I can never have a conversation with this person because they tried to box me in or whatever. Okay. So step number 1 here is to choose your mindset. What that actually means is that there's 2 ways you can look at sales. You can look at selling as something that, it makes me anxious. I'm asking someone for something. Or you can look at sales as service and service as sales. What that means is that your attitude around sales is more so that I need to be a really good detective to deeply understand what my ideal customer needs. And if I can do that, the solution to their problems probably lies in my toolbox. But if it doesn't, then that's okay too. And that is the true difference, because you're going to go at it a completely different way if you think that you are asking for something and trying to get someone to just buy something from you, versus if you believe that, no, like selling is really just a matter of deeply understanding someone's needs. And it's really about service. Like, the better I get at asking questions, the more I'm going to be able to help people. And that is the first mindset shift here that is extremely important for you to wrap your hands around and understand where you sit in those with those two paradigms, because they are very, very, very different. Now, one activity that might be helpful is just to think about, when is the last time that you actually experienced great, great, great service? What did it look like? Like, maybe you were in a restaurant and the server was like super good at, like, starting off with, can I get you guys some cocktails? And what would you like for an appetizer? And he or she is doing all the things, like all the right things to really service you. But in the end, you actually bought more because she asked great questions, she or he asked great questions. And it caused you to think about, oh yeah, it would be really nice to start off our meal with a cocktail, or that sort of idea, right? So that is step number one. Step number two is to build rapport. Before you go into any sales interaction, you really don't want to just swan dive into, oh, hey girl, I see you're on a health and fitness journey too. Or, hey, pretty lady, like, looks like we have a lot in common. That right there is like instant rapport out the window. That tells me that you are on the hunt and I am your prey. And that is not a great way to start off a conversation with somebody that you're trying to win over, and you're trying to create like a special experience with, right? It's like a dude on the corner of the street that just keeps cat whistling at girls as they go by, and just like, yeah, the numbers will be in my favor. If I do this enough, someone will stop. Like, that's what it feels like when you go about it in that method. Whereas when we talk about building rapport, what we're actually meaning here is that you're going to go into, if you are going into people's DMs, because I'm going to talk about two different strategies here. If you are going into people's DMs, it's really important you actually do establish what you have in common. So when we talk about building rapport, what I actually mean by that is there are things you have in common with other people. It's like building commonalities. So it's your goal to figure out what you have in common. So if you were looking at my profile, and this is where it definitely takes a little more time. If you were looking at my profile, you would know right at this point in my life, I'm 34 weeks pregnant, and I have a bulldog. He's a Boston Terrier bulldog named Brew. You would know that my husband is taking paternity leave for the first year of our child's life, and he's off, so he's not working, and he's been able to take 8 weeks leading up to the baby being off. You would find out a bunch of these things by looking at my social media. Building rapport is looking at those things, deciding what you have in common with me, and then establishing and starting the conversation that way. So you may say when you start off, hey, Ashley, I've been checking out your feed. It is so awesome that your husband has been able to, quote unquote, retire for the year and take some time off with you. I really wish my husband was able to do that when we had our first baby. How are you adjusting to life with both of you guys home, or whatever, right? It's something like that. That is how you open the conversation, because one, you're showing me that you actually care and that you have taken an interest in my life. Whenever I get those messages like, hey, thanks for liking my post, I'm like, one, what post? I don't remember what I've gone in and liked, but it's about you. It's not about me. So why would I pay attention, right? So building rapport is really about figuring out what you have in common with that person and leading with that. Starting with that, because my guard will instantly go down if you start talking about pregnancy, if you start talking about dogs, if you start talking about my husband, instantly my guard goes down, right? I like you more. I trust you more. You built some rapport. So that is step 2. Now, the one thing I do want to mention is I've talked about if you're going into the DM method, like you're going to direct message people, cool. That's the way you want to go about it. Maybe you're somebody that's like, I don't know if that's my style. I don't want to DM people. Like that just doesn't feel very good for me. What you actually want to do in this case is your social media is going to do a lot of the putting out there what your values are. Like you really want to showcase in your life what's important. That is the purpose of social media, is to build curiosity. And then when you do have a call to action post, meaning you're asking people to engage, that's where you're going to be able to not only build more rapport, but really know who is interested more so in what you have to say and what you have going on. So your call to action posts, I would always suggest doing a free community Facebook group where you invite people to join. And then it gets them just that one more intimate step closer to you and your business, where now you have permission to talk about health and fitness way more often, because that's obviously your group, right, that you're going to be talking about. So you can get them into that group and start building rapport, showcasing your value. What I really like about this strategy is that rather than sending like 100 DMs a day, the more you can get people to, 1, get into your Facebook group, and 2, get on your email list, the easier that you can start to automate that communication. Or think about it this way, instead of sending 100 DMs, you're putting together a really thoughtful email, or you're putting together a really thoughtful post that day. I think that that is really an important piece of the larger scale of the puzzle here, because you know, you will have people all the time that are going to have objections and aren't your ideal clients. So rather than spend so much time every day trying to get into their DMs and send them private messages, to me, it's a much better use of time to build a community and to build an email list where people can self-select if they want to be there or not. That is just 100% how I've grown my business. And I would way prefer you to put your efforts in things that are working, instead of it feeling like, okay, like, you know, I can put my head down for the night, but tomorrow I got to do it all over again. That is the difference, because you can really build momentum in Facebook groups and with your email list without having to send the same message 100 times over. You're able to serve so many more people. So after you've done a great job of building rapport, there's going to be some back and forth, and you know, I'd reply to you like, yeah, we're getting adjusted. It's been a hot summer, but you know, we're loving it. We're able to go swimming together most days, take the boat out, like do a lot of things together before that we couldn't do based on his schedule. And so we're going to have this back and forth bit of dialogue. I am going to keep leading the questions as, you know, as the, call it the coach or the social seller here. I am going to keep asking questions to this person I'm trying to build rapport with. And so I may say like, hey, I can also see that it looks like, you know, you like to work out. There's a couple of Instagram photos I see there of you like loving protein shakes and all that sort of stuff. What are your health and fitness goals that you're working towards? Like something like that, right? So this is step number 3 that I'm getting into, which is focusing on what are their goals. Because if you're going to offer me a solution, you need to first understand what my goals are and why this goal is so important to me. Because the price, really, when you think about putting a price on your happiness, I'm going to be much more willing to spend money in the areas that I think are truly going to make me happy. And it's your job to make that connection between this is your goal, this is what you told me your goal was, and this is the offer, and this is what it costs to get there, sort of idea, right? It helps close that loop. So you want to ask questions about their goals. Like, what are they working towards? I know you're, you know, again, you could say like, I know you're pregnant right now. How are you finding it? Are you still doing, your workouts? I know, just like watching your journey, I can see that you always have worked out. So how are you finding that? That sort of idea. That is going to open up for me to share how I'm really doing, right? So I may say, I'm finding it really challenging to get outside as much just because I'm so hot these days. True story. So I'm finding that my workouts are a little bit different than normal. I'm also getting a bit bored of doing the same things over and over again. I'm not really sure if I should be doing higher intensity stuff. I'm reading stuff about, I shouldn't be doing too much supination stuff on the floor. And so I'm like a little bit lost on what I should do. So that is the question around getting their goals. You're going to be asking them about what their goals are, how it's going for them, how many days a week are they working out, how intense are their workouts, are they liking them, are they motivated, all those sort of questions, right? That's going to provide you a really, really great base to then actually provide some solutions, which is step number 4. So step number 4 is to provide solutions for them. So if I've just shared all this information with you, then you're going to be able to say, oh, those are some great goals. I completely understand. I know when I had my first, it was definitely very challenging for me to work out. So it's amazing that you're still sticking with it. That is so awesome. And let me tell you, like, as soon as the baby comes and, you go through that healing process, like, the best thing about it is you're going to feel super fired up to be ready to dive back in. And that's going to be great. It's going to feel really good. I know it did for me. Based on what you're telling me, I actually think that whatever it may be, maybe you'd recommend 2B mindset. Maybe you'd have, ultimate portion fix in your back pocket. Maybe you'd even be thinking like bar blend or something like that. Whatever the product offering is, or you might even say, we don't have anything yet for prenatal, but we know that there's something coming out. You could talk about if you had a waiting list or things like that. But let's just pretend that there was the perfect solution for them that you thought about. You were like, oh, yeah, they should definitely be following this eating plan and they should be doing this workout. So when you provide solutions to someone, you're going to say, of everything you've told me, this is really what I would recommend that you consider and do. This is where people that are pregnant that I do coach, this is the best way that they found success. One is that they always button up the nutrition. The important part is you're getting enough calories and the right type of calories, obviously enough vegetables and fruits and all those sorts of things. So that's where some of the programs that we offer actually have a prenatal component where you can figure out what you should be eating. And that's obviously, I know that's something that's important to you. You mentioned earlier that when it comes to your nutrition, you want to make sure you're on point because obviously you're looking after 2 right now, right? And then the other thing I would definitely recommend is that you start with something, let's say, I'm just going to throw this out there and say BOD. I would never say BOD though to a potential client that didn't understand that. I would say Beachbody On Demand, which is like the Netflix of workouts. And there is actually some workouts on there that are pre and postnatal. And there's lots of yoga booty ballet and some of the older stuff that's super fun, where I know you said you get bored easily. It'll give you a ton of variety. So it's a really good way to mix things up, make sure you're getting your nutrients, and it'll just put you in the best spot possible for when you actually have your baby and you're ready to dial in the nutrition and do all that stuff postpartum as well. So what I've done there is I've taken all the solutions that I've thought about and I've catered it towards their goals and what I know from my knowledge is going to work best for them. And then I have sort of wrapped it up and said, you're really narrowing it down for them. You're not saying these are all the options. You're saying this is what I think would work best for you. As a prospect on the other side, I'm really glad that you have made it simple for me to understand, and you've given me specific recommendations because you're the expert, right? So then at that point, I would say, yeah, that actually sounds, that sounds great. Or I might not. And we'll talk about that in a second. But the next step is to give them an option close. So you would say, okay, that's awesome. So what do you think would be best for you, starting with the nutrition plan or starting with both BOD or Beachbody On Demand and the nutrition plan? So you're going to try to get a yes first, right? Like which one of those? You're going to try to get them to pick one of those options first before you go any further. Okay. And so then they're either going to say, oh, like I'd probably just start with nutrition because I'm not sure about working out. Like I'm going to be off for 6 weeks minimum, when I have the baby and stuff like that. But the nutrition stuff, I can definitely dial in now, which would be awesome. And maybe I'll just start with that, right? You're either going to have them pick one of those options, or they're going to say, oh, well, like, I don't know, like, how much is it? That sort of idea. So those are sort of the two paths. Either they're going to say, yep, I'm on board, da, 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 or they're going to give you, like, they're sort of going to pump the brakes at this point. And so what you want to do there is if somebody asks about the price, or, like they sort of start giving you a little bit of objection, like, I'm not sure. Like it could be, these are the most common objections that come up. We've got time, we've got money, we've got making the commitment, we've got talking to my spouse, and then we've got like, I'm not really sure if I'm going to like it, right? So those are the 5 objections that come up the most often. So if someone gives you any one of those, then what you're going to do, let's specifically talk about price here because that's what this episode is about. You're going to break it down to the ridiculous. Okay. So if you, for example, I'm going to do some quick, as one of my bosses used to call it, cigarette math here, cigarette pack math, old term, but always found it a bit hilarious when he said it. So $99, let's say for BOD over 12 months is $8.25 cents a month. So when you look at that, that's really, really darn cheap. And if you divide that by 30 days, BOD ends up being 30 cents a day. Like how easy is that to buy into, right? And then if we look at Shakeology, if we were to take, let's just say $130 divided by, I don't know about you guys, how long, if you're like 30 days and then you need a new bag, or if you're like kind of every other day, let's just say the average is like someone is drinking every other day. It works out to be over 2 months, like $2 a day. And then you get your protein in. When you compare that to a piece of chicken, it's on the same par as that, right? So you want to break it down to the ridiculous, because when somebody sees that number of what BOD actually costs, $99, or maybe they see the price of like like your protein shake, whether it be Shakeology or something else, if you're not a Beachbody coach, you want to break it down to the ridiculous so that they can really start to understand how much per day it costs versus the price up front. Because you think about it, like how often do we go to Starbucks and get like, I was just there the other day and I got the, mango dragon fruit refresher and it was like $6. And, that would be something that a lot of people would not think about that purchase as adding up, but it does add up, right? So breaking it down to the ridiculous is a really good way to get people to focus on something outside of just that price all at once. So that's the first thing I would do. If someone was like, well, like, how much does it cost? I would break it down to that. I would say, BOD is a year, you have a year of access. So you see what I just did there? I didn't say, oh, you pay for a year. I'm changing that wording to you have a year of access. Like what's in it for them? You have access to over 600 plus workouts, and it ends up being like 30 cents a day. which is incredible, obviously. And the total price for it is $99. Don't put .00. Don't put a dollar sign. That just draws attention to that price. Don't do all that stuff. Just keep it $99. And then you could say, and in terms of the nutrient dense supplement that comes with it, this is really going to help for those days. Like for me, I hate like thinking, oh, I got to eat some chicken breast, or like that's not something that I like really love or enjoy. And I know when I'm tracking my food, I always need more protein. Like that's one thing that's always super clear. So I love to be able to have something with protein in it right in the morning, especially if I don't feel like eating eggs or I don't have time. I love a good protein shake. So I am obsessed. And that is a really important part of managing weight loss or toning up, adding muscle, all those sort of things. You need to make sure you're getting enough protein. So that's where Shakeology comes into play, or whatever protein supplement you guys are working with. You need to have something that you can easily have that you're going to be pumped about, and you're going to be able to get enough protein. So it might be something that, if it were me, I would actually say to them, like, how many servings of protein are you getting? Everyone's needs are going to be a little bit different. Why I love to have a bag of Shakeology around is for those days in the afternoon where I'm feeling a bit draggy and I either need a nap or I feel like I need a handful of Smarties. This is the perfect thing to sub for it. Or in the morning when I'm in a rush, like you can give them a couple of examples of why you really like this. And here's the thing, like it starts as a process, right? The first time you buy Shakeology, I don't know about you guys, but I was like, okay, it's expensive, so I don't want to have it every day. I was like, I'm just going to keep it in my pantry, and then I'm going to slow down the shipping orders and see how it goes. Like that was my first thought around it. And then once I had it in my house and I would try to go back to other stuff, like just because I had it and wanted to use it up, the taste was never as good. So I would always go back. And now I'm super consistent with it because I track all my food and I know I need to get a certain amount of protein a day. And I actually really find if I do not have a shake a day, my digestive tract is off, especially being pregnant. It really impacts that. So now I am a full-blown believer, but before I had a hard time with the price. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to tippy toe into this. I'm going to get it and I'm going to see how it goes. Right. So give your customers some grace. Like they might be feeling that way too. So it's like you start off with something like you could start off with a challenge pack, right? Taste all the flavors. But the thing is, like, there's so many different recipes they can try. So it's not just, try one shake and that's it. There's so many things that you can do with Shakeology to try different recipes. And it doesn't have to be a shake. It can be many different things, of course, right? So I went really on a big tangent there about how much I like the flavor of Shakeology. But I feel like it's important. It's important to know that your customer may be going through those same emotions that I was going through with, it's really expensive. And then coming to the conclusion, like, okay, I get it. I see why it is. And my body is so much happier when I have it, because let me tell you, it's super uncomfortable being pregnant and your digestive tract just not working like it normally does. It's really important to have those benefits and know them so that you can be specific when you're talking to your clients about them. So you're going to break it down to the ridiculous, and you're not going to put the dollar sign. You're not going to put .0, like the pennies and cents, like get out of all of that. And if someone says, well, you know what, that seems really expensive. Like $2 a day is quite expensive. One, I don't think that you're probably not going to get that answer very often. But if you do, then you can go back to, I completely understand. Many people have felt that way before. And I know I did in the beginning too. And what I found is that I wasn't getting enough protein each day to see actually any of my goal come off. Like, let's say their goal is to lose weight or whatever. Not everyone's goal, obviously, is that they're pregnant and trying to work out. But if you don't eat enough protein through the day, you're going to be hungry. So it's really important that you're getting enough protein in. And so other people have felt that way before. They thought like, I don't know, like $2 a day for a shake. Like, I'm not really sure about. The best part about it is that it's going to replace, like, you don't have to go and buy like a whole pack of chicken or another protein that is expensive. You're going to be able to sub this in and actually make sure you're hitting that protein goal, which is really important for you to get to your goals. And there's a 30-day money back guarantee. So if you don't like it, then you can send it back. So it's like risk-free to try it out. So what would be easier? Do you want to start with the challenge pack with this or the challenge pack with this? Like, you basically will give them the answer and then give them another option close, right? So the thing about this is, like, obviously you got to know when your comfort zone is of like, okay, I'm going to give them some time, let them figure it out. Again, another reason I really, really like a Facebook community group, because then I could put them in that group if they weren't quite sure. They just want to get a vibe for like the accountability and support, because that's another thing we didn't even talk about in that price. It is including that accountability and support. And like, if you've ever met with a trainer, they're expensive, right? It's like $60 to $100 an hour, which is not even happening right now. So at, $2 a day for Shakeology and, include, bot on top of that, it's incredible to be able to get accountability and support, get that extra serving of protein in, and have something you can do from the comfort of your home. You're just so much more consistent, obviously, right? When you don't have to go somewhere to get a workout in. If it's 11 o'clock at night, you can still bang out that workout. I've done that many times before in wanting to follow a program and follow that accountability of the schedule and get it done. So hopefully that has provided some help, some language, some key tips and tricks for you guys of what you can do. And I would absolutely encourage you, if you are not yet in the Done For You posting party that is coming up, definitely make sure that you jump into that. It's happening July 27th to 31st. And by going to ashleyshaw.ca/posting party, I'm actually giving away my inviting scripts. So what you've just learned today about price, it's really interesting because when you're inviting, there is a similar formula that you're going to use in order to invite people to the coaching opportunity. So if you would love a copy of that, make sure you sign up, and you will definitely get a copy of that and an hour training that I've put together on all the things I would recommend around actually going through the inviting process while you're keeping these things in mind, those 5 things that I have taught you in this episode. So thank you guys so much for listening. I really, really appreciate your focus and your drive to make your business successful. And I can't wait to learn more about how this episode has helped you. Make sure to leave a comment below. I would love to hear what your biggest takeaway was.
If you're ready to turn your Beachbody dream into a Beachbody business, I have something super special for you. My 5-day Done For You posting party will help you overcome the overwhelm of never knowing what to post so you can show up consistently on social, get off the icky hey girl hamster wheel, and finally see more engagement from customers who enthusiastically slide into your DMs to join your next fitness challenge. This party is totally free to join, and we start on July 27th. Head to ashleyshaw.ca/posting party to sign up now. You'll get 5 totally templated social media posts that work with accountability and camaraderie in our private Business Bootcamp for Fitness Coaches group. And that post-workout feeling of accomplishment comes along right with it. See you there. And again, you can head to ashleyshaw.ca/posting party to sign up now.